Hey, what's up, nerds? In this episode, we're going to be talking about polymorphism. This is that third pillar of object-oriented programming, and it describes the ability to treat numerous derived classes as their parent class. So in this example, we have a student that extends user. Well, you can just treat a student as a user, and if you had other types of users, you can basically treat them all the same as users. But the magic here is that the students are going to do things that are specific to students, and the other types will do things specific to those types. So that's a lot of explanation, and not a whole lot of code and examples. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that garbage and we're going to turn that into an example right here. Now, before you do this, there's a couple things. I would recommend you watch the video about inheritance, which we talked about earlier on in this series, just so you understand how that works. But if you get a general idea, you should be able to survive this video just fine. The other thing you need to do before we start this video is check out our sponsor. This video is sponsored by DiffBlue. DiffBlue offers a free AI-powered unit test generation tool for Java developers. DiffBlue writes your unit tests for you and delivers human-readable code to increase your test coverage and speed up your development, while ensuring you didn't break anything along the way. With a free community edition available as an IntelliJ plugin, DiffBlue is super easy to get started with. Best of all, as a viewer of my channel, you can get a free license upgrade to use the community edition for all commercial code, and 3 free months of the professional edition, which has additional features and support. Get started using the link below. So in order to best see polymorphism, you need a base class, which we have here, user. I'll just show you that real quick. You don't have to have everything in here, but basically this is going to have some attributes, name and membership with getters and setters. And in our main method, we are working with those things that are a little bit more general on the user object. So we have the membership here, which is defined from that parent class user, defined right here. It's not defined in that student class, but it still works. So that's the first thing. We need to have some kind of inheritance hierarchy. The other thing is that we need to have not only a linear hierarchy, but we need to have a split at some point where we have multiple things inheriting from one base class. So here we have a student inheriting from a user. Let's go ahead and create another class that inherits from user. So we'll just go over here, hit new class, and we'll just call this teacher. And you know, teachers, users, they have a lot in common. They're both people. They both, if this is a website, they both probably have an account, and they both probably need to get verified. But you know, maybe a student only needs to verify their email because it's a pretty simple process to sign up. But a teacher has to go through a little bit more work. You know, maybe they have to verify their phone number, which is a little bit more intimate, you know? So here's what we can do. We can take from the student this verified junk. We can just take all of this and we're going to put that in the base class user. So I'm going to paste that right here. Like so. So now we'll just make sure everything is working. Let's save everything and just make sure we don't have any errors. And when we do this, we should be able to check to see that they're not verified because it's false by default, and we can set their membership and everything's still working good. And we still get false gold. So I didn't break anything yet. And for that teacher, we're going to do the same exact thing. So for the teacher, we're going to say extends user. So we should be able to create a teacher object along with the student. So we'll say teacher, we'll just name it T, and it's a new teacher. And we can also print out the teacher's membership. So we'll say t.getMembership. So we can see that teacher is a bronze member. But the cool thing here is we can treat the student and the teacher as the same type. So we can even add them to a generic list of the same type. So we can create a generic list. I have this one down here defined in the user class. And I'll show you what that looks like real quick. We just created this list here, new array list of type user. But we should be able to say user.admins.add, and we should be able to add an S, and we should be able to say user.admins.add and pass in T. Since these are both considered users, it's totally fine to add them to an array list of type user. And let's go ahead and give these guys some names. So we'll say s.setName just say student and t dot set name teacher. So now when we iterate through this entire list, we should get student, teacher, and then Caleb U. Sally. Student, teacher, Caleb U. Sally. All right, so far so good. We're not really seeing a whole lot of benefit here. Let me show you where that benefit comes in. We can basically do an override in student and teacher, and that'll be specific to those base classes. So we'll just create a method to verify the teacher. So that's going to look like void verify, and this is going to invoke that set verified in the base class. So we'll say set verified, and what are we going to pass in here? Well, we're going to pass in the Boolean value true, but we're also going to do just a little print line here. And this is basically where you would fill in the verification process, if you needed to send them a text message and get that back or whatever. But we'll just type out verifying through phone. So I'm going to copy this. It's going to be very similar for the student. So I'm hungry. I'm just going to paste that in here and verifying through email. So they're just slightly different. And just so this is overriding something from the base class, I'm going to put that in here as well, but just keep it very general. Verifying. There we go. All right, so what we can do now is we'll go through this and we will verify all of the different admins. So here, instead of printing all of the names, what we're going to do is we're just going to iterate through that list. So we'll create a custom loop for user U coming from user.admins. What are we going to do exactly? We are going to verify them. So u.verify, we see that as an option here on type user. And let's run this, see how many errors we got. All right, let's check out this output. It's interesting. So even though these are all users, and inside of that user class, we defined it to just say verifying ... The ones for the students specific say verifying through email. The ones for the teacher specific say verifying through phone. And then if we're just working with general user objects, it just says verifying ... So looking pretty good. If you just need a little silly example to understand what's going on, imagine you had a bunch of pets. You had dogs, you had cats, you had alligators and ferrets, right? And they got to go to the bathroom, so you say, hey, pets, go outside. Well, the alligator might go over to your little pond, and that's where they go potty, and your dog might go over to the bushes. They all do their own thing based on what they are designed to do. However, they all have that same thing in common, the ability to go outside to use the bathroom. And that would be defined in a base class pet. Okay, so that example was totally dumb. So let's get back to what we were talking about, which is dealing with users. There's one last thing I wanted to talk about in this episode, and that is, well, what exactly is a user? Because, we have students, we have teachers, but what's a general user? What are these three anyways? Well, in my opinion, a user that's not defined as a student or a teacher shouldn't be able to exist. They should be one or the other, or possibly build functionality for both. So you can think of this base class as being an abstract concept and not so much a concrete example, whereas a student and a teacher is a more concrete example. So to do that, there's this keyword we can use. So if we go to user, scroll up to the top here, we can define this as abstract. It's not actually a thing. We save that. We don't get any errors on user, student, or teacher, but we're going to have errors inside of this code because we're instantiating users, which we can't do. So we need to decide whether they are students or teachers. Now, I didn't really design this example to be a student and a teacher, but my bad. We're just going to go with what we got. So we'll just replace new user with something more specific, such as teacher. And maybe this one's going to be, oh, that's not liking that. Oh, I didn't define the constructor for it to take just a string. But you guys get the point. Basically, we can create students and we can create teachers, but we can't create users. Alright, so that's all I got for polymorphism. It's one of those things that's a little bit more complex to explain and come up with some really good examples. So I did my best and hopefully it is helpful. Basically, when you need to be able to address a large variety of types all as one general type, you can do that using polymorphism. If you've enjoyed this content, please be sure to like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you just share this with one person trying to learn to program, I think it could really help them out and it would tremendously help my channel. If you want to see more, let me know what you'd like to see. Maybe we can do some more object-oriented programming stuff. There's definitely more we could talk about. And just as a final reminder, just for those who didn't see the first episode, we do have a course out there that I created. Again, I don't really make a ton of money off of it. It's just something that you can go watch with a free account and get a little bit more depth in Java object-oriented programming. So you can find that if you just search Caleb Java OOP, and it should be right here, Inform IT. This one, it says add to cart, so I think you can just add O'Reilly, and that'll show up from O'Reilly.com. And I think you should be able to start a free trial and watch this whole thing. And we go in a little bit more detail on some of the other important stuff, like access modifiers, virtual keyword, final, collections, and generics, and just a little bit of extra detail. So also like pass by value, which is really important to understand. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.